Britain and America's patience with the Syrian opposition members seems to be wearing thin. They've threatened to rethink their support if its main faction decides against attending next week's Geneva peace talks. And another potential player in the region, too, whose participation is in the air, is Iran, with Russia and the UN urging Tehran's presence, but then Washington sending mixed signals later yesterday. To talk about this and the prospects for it, Hillary Mann Leverett's on the line, an expert on Iran and US foreign policy. She's in Washington. Hi there, thanks for taking the time to be with us. And the UN Secretary-General has just reiterated his support for Iran being there. He thinks they could be a key player. Surely that's enough to get them there, isn't it, or not?
Well, unfortunately, at this point, it's not. At this point, both Russia and the United States have essentially veto power on who may attend, on which delegations may attend.
Well, Russia's all for it.
And the United States, that's right, but the United States is not. So at this point, the United States is blocking Iran's participation.
So what was the rumble about yesterday? Did the Foreign Secretary mess up? What was the problem there?
Well, I don't know if he messed up. I think what it demonstrates is a real incoherence in strategy and policy coming out of Washington, out of London, out of Paris, which seeks to somehow not just have a negotiation, but to have essentially a table where Syria just comes to surrender. And that's not something Syria is going to do. That's not something Iran is going to support. I don't think that's something that Russia or the vast majority of countries around the world would support. But that is essentially what Washington, London, and Paris are trying to do, but it ends up being incoherent because it's just not possible.
We've had this significant thought lately in US-Iran relations. There's been good progress between them on the nuclear program. Why is Washington so hesitant to work with Tehran on Syria?
It's very, very strange. You know, I worked when I was at the White House and the State Department with the U.S. government. I negotiated with the current Iranian Foreign Minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, over Afghanistan. We negotiated with the Iranians, with the Russians, very effectively to deal with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. So there's a real track record of the United States being able to work with Iran, with Russia on a really difficult problem. It doesn't make sense that the United States doesn't want to solicit and solicit Iran's participation and work with Iran on this issue, except that America's so-called allies, particularly in Saudi Arabia and others in the Gulf, don't really want to see that Iran's participation there because they don't want Assad to be able to consolidate his authority in his country.
Well, let's look at the practical side of this. What can Iran bring to the party, so to speak?
Iran brings not only a deep, long-standing relationship with the sitting government in Syria, the government of Bashar al-Assad, but it also brings an ability to work with countries around Syria as well. It has a very good, solid relationship with the current government in Iraq. The Iranian foreign minister has a good working relationship with the Turkish foreign minister, and Turkey has been heavily involved in the conflict in Syria. Right now, the Iranian foreign minister is doing a regional tour visit to all of the countries surrounding Syria, to Turkey, to Iraq, to Lebanon, to Jordan. The Iranian foreign minister is very, very active, is very focused on using international law and conflict resolution to actually come to a political solution to a range of issues, especially on Syria. So that's something incredibly important because there is no military solution to the problem in Syria. You can't kill the Assad government. You can't kill all those who support it. There is no military solution. So if we want to have a political solution, if we want to stop the killing, if we want to stop the spread of radical jihadi terror throughout the Middle East and even beyond the Middle East, then we need a political solution, and that means we need Iran at the table.
So what is your prognosis on how this is going to pan out then?
There is an inevitability, I think, to Iran's participation because there is no military solution. I've been saying this, though, unfortunately, for 3 years, and over 130,000 dead Syrians later, now Washington is in some ways is trying to think about whether or not maybe in some way, shape, or form Iran could help, maybe from the sidelines. Now, that's not good enough, but it's progress. I just hope it doesn't take another 3 years and another 100,000 dead Syrians before we come to reality, come to some sort of sanity, and work with Iran and the key players for a political solution.
Thanks for your thoughts. Hillary Mann Leverett there, author and expert on Iran, live from Washington.